Hi again, folks. How's all doing? This is a Hornby Merchant Navy class locomotive that was sent to me by Paul, who also sent me the back in class 4. He's told me that he's had a go at replacing the pickups on this, but got into a bit of a tangle. Let's see how this goes at the moment. Turn on the power. So yeah, a severe case of stoppy-startyitis there, so there's definitely pickup issues. Let's back it into the shed and see if we can sort it out. So, a Merchant Navy class. I haven't worked on one of these before. A couple of cosmetic issues with this one. There's a rod here which is loose, and this would have been connected to a little plastic linkage onto the whistle here, but the little plastic linkage is broken off. Had a look online, no sign of them, so I'm going to have to jury rig some kind of connection between the whistle and the end of that rod, because otherwise this just keeps flopping about or dropping down in there. I think what I'll do just now is just remove that, because otherwise it's going to drop off and get lost or something. Otherwise, this is a pretty good condition. There's a wee bit scuffing on the top. This is the first locomotive I've seen with a speedometer on the wheel there. So yeah, nicely detailed model. But we'll take the underframe off and see what's going on with the pickups. The tender, unfortunately, has had a bit of an argument with a soldering iron. We'll clean that up and scrape away the melted plastic and see if we can patch it up with milliput and paint it over. Right, okay, well, let's get a look inside this. Pop it in there. And I think we'll take the bogies off. Brass washer there as well. The pony truck here's got wires connected to the drawbar. So we need to be careful not to break them off. Alright, we've got 3 screws on the underframe. That don't appear to be screwed on tight at all. Yeah, the screws are just a bit stripped, I think. There we go. Take that off. Okay, kind of looks like this doesn't have any pickups at all. So we're going to have to fit them. I have replacement pickups and underframe assembly here. So we'll see if we can just pull this old one out. But this wire is going to have to be fed through to connect to the motor, and that looks quite short. So I think we'll have to remove the body of the locomotive as well. But let's just see if we can get this this part of the underframe out. I think it just kind of presses on. Right, so that pops off, but then it's held on with a wire. Yeah, okay, we'll need to take the body off. So now the fun and games start. That silly little speedometer links, this wheel to there, which is linked onto the body. So you can't just lift the chassis out. What a stupid idea. Why would you want to do that? Okay, it's a nice little bit of detail. I'm going to have to undo this crank pin to remove the chassis from the body. I mean, if you'd made that kind of just clip on, fair enough, but it kind of doesn't look like it does. Unless that just clips on, but it doesn't look like it. Anyway, there's the crank pin out. So now we can disengage the speedometer and lift this out now. There we go. So that wire here wants to be connected to that. We'll snip that off. Like that. Get that out of the way because there's no pickups in there. And then we can fit this one in its place. Check the pickups in this, they all seem okay. We'll strip the end of this wire. And we shall strip the end of this one. So there's that. How did that get there? That's that hook for the whistle. I thought I'd taken that off. It's the falling out thing. Alright, we'll strip this wire. We'll pop that down through there. Bit of a delicate operation, but we'll get there. Twist these wires together. Just tin these wires together. Shrink this without melting anything. Yeah, idiot. I pulled this wheel out of the way so I could get in to splice that wire, but of course that wire's got to go the other side of that axle. Oh, there's the motor mount come off. Oh, jings. Right, okay. Don't panic. We'll just undo that. And then we can get that down there. Around the other side of that wheel. Like that. Like so. And try and get this plate and the pickups into position. Should then go down in there, but is that going to screw in tight enough to maintain contact with the pickup through the chassis? Yeah, that screw's strapped, and so is that one. This is what happens when you put screws directly into die cast. You know, unless that's very, very high quality die cast, which it won't be because this is a made in China model. They kind of just strip out. So I could put super glue down into the holes and a bit of baking powder, but we'll just try some different screws. That one's in. Right, okay, I'm not convinced, but let's see just before I put this back together. Let's see if we have connection. So between this wheel and that pickup, so those wheels are picking up okay, but I have concerns about pickup from these wheels in there. Oh, alright, okay, it seems to be working. Connect up this rod again. Let's just try a battery on this. Yeah. Comes off like that. To expose the worm gear. We'll give it a wee scoosh. Just get some of that dried grease out of there. So put some silicone grease on the worm gear, some oil on the bearing at the back of the motor, and at the front there. And just for good measure, put a wee spot of nice thick sticky gear oil to mix in with the silicone grease. And we'll give that a scoosh out. Some of that grease is going really quite dry and gunky. Okay, put that back on there. Okay, screw that back on. Okay, I'm just going to take this underplate off again because I didn't lubricate the axles, but I just wanted to make sure that this fitted on okay. To be honest, the axles aren't bad at all, but I'd like to get some fresh oil in there. This one keeps popping out because it's got a spring to help maintain contact with the track, I would imagine. Right, okay, there it is, it's in. Let's see if we can fit this. Right, going to have to connect up this daft little speedometer. So I think we put this bush on, fit the rod. I have to try and fit this little crank onto there. And it's got to be just right, otherwise it's going to interfere with the turning of the wheel. You really can't go too far with detail, and when a tiny little detail like a speedometer on a wheel interferes with just routine servicing, I would just rather it wasn't there. I could see me taking this thing off if this was my locomotive. Right, is that it? Kind of looks like it. What happens if I put a battery on this now? Nothing. Oh, what's happened? Because it was working. Looks like the pickups are working. Right, okay. Patience, patience. Take that out again. So there's power getting to that brush. Nothing getting to that brush. It'll be that silly underplate design that this bit here has got to make contact with a tiny little bit of the chassis. But that's what it'll be. Take all this out again now. I had it working, but I didn't lubricate the axles. So I took it out to lubricate the axles, put it back together, and then it's not working. So this here makes contact with a tiny little bit of the chassis that pokes through, just a little nodule, just nuts. Why do that? Why not just have a little hole and put a little screw in there, and then you would get really good contact. But you're relying purely on just the pressure of that touching that. I think if we try and put a little blob of solder on it. I did this once before, I can't remember which locomotive it was, but I had a similar pickup assembly, and I put a little blob of solder on it. Not to try and make it connect directly with the nodule of the chassis, but just to help increase the pressure when you put the plate on and make better contact. But it's going to be soldering onto plastic. But I think we'll give it a go, because otherwise it's going to be at risk of being an intermittent contact. So I'll put a little blob of solder on there. So hopefully now, when I screw that down, it'll press down on that blob of solder and help that little nodule of the chassis make contact with the pickup there. That's the idea. It worked before. hopefully that'll work. Right, there we go. Right, let's try and put this back together again. This is definitely up there with one of the stupidest things I've seen on a locomotive. Right, let's just pop this on the test track. You can see the spring-loaded rear axle there. Okay, does it go? Yes, it does. What about with the tender attached? Okay, so I've got it running, but now I want to sort a couple of the wee cosmetic things. I need to find a way of connecting this rod, which kind of just hooks in there, and would have connected to a little bracket coming off that whistle. Okay, I'll have to have a think about that. And the other thing I'm going to do is sort this out. Right, just want to scrape away all that melted plastic. Then give us a wee bit of a file. Okay, so all the melted deformed plastic's been cut away. So I'll get some milliput, fill that up, and let that set, and then we'll sand it down again and then paint it. It won't be invisible, but it'll look a lot better. Some of the dust off this. Okay, we'll mix up some milliput. It's suitably mixed. Right. Just a tiny wee bit. Squeezed into the holes. Okay, I think we shall leave it at that. So there we are. It's a bit messy just now, but once that's set, we'll sand it down and paint it. I don't have any BR green paint at the moment, so I've ordered some up. So it might be a few days before we get around to doing that. But I'm going to give that a good long time to harden. Okay, so I've done a bit of head scratching for how to connect the whistle to this rod. There's no way I can replicate the little bracket thing that was there. But I've taken a little piece of guitar string and bent it like a little double-ended hook, or it's almost like a little staple almost. And I think that'll at least connect it up. Again, this is a nice little bit of detailing, but I'll bet you anything there's plenty of these broken. Right, can I get that hooked over the whistle? Here we go. Okay, as I say, that is not replicating what was there, but it is joining them up. At least this isn't going to come off now, it's going to stay put. So yeah, I think that's us until that's dry, and we'll get the paintwork done. So I shall see you in a couple of days' time. So a few days later, I've got some BR green paint. So we'll get this file down, paint it up, and see how it looks. So I'm just going to file it first of all, and then we'll sand it with a couple of different grits of paper, I think. And we'll see how it turns out. Milliput does file and sand quite well, so long as it's set properly. This is going to take a bit of time, because I need to do this very, very carefully, so as not to damage the surrounding parts of the model too much. It's inevitable they're going to get scraped a wee bit, but it should be okay when I paint it. Right, I'm just wrapping some sandpaper around the file, and we'll start sanding this. Okay, there we go, that's all filed down. I think now we could maybe try putting some paint on that and see what it looks like. Okay, let's put some paint on. Colour match doesn't look too bad. Okay, that's not looking too bad at all. Just going to touch up some of the black paint. Okay, so that's not too bad. I think I could have got it better if my airbrush had been working, but you know, I never expected it to be a completely invisible repair. So that's not bad. It certainly looks an awful lot better than it did. So there we are, that's this Merchant Navy class all sorted out. Let's go and pull it out of the shed. Okay then, let's bring her out. I've just brought this back into the siding because although it's running okay, it's kind of doing that. It's kind of rocking back and forth when it's going along. You know, this has got the sprung rear axle, and I just think the thing's badly balanced. It's kind of rocking back and forward. I think this needs a bit of weight in the front just to really make it a bit more stable and run a bit better. So I think we'll take it back to the bench and stick some weight in. Right, well, I've taken this off again and hoping to get some weight down in here, but there's something in there that's screwed in. So I'm going to see if that'll come out. I think it maybe is a weight by the feel of it, but it's clearly not heavy enough. There's the screw out, so does that now just pop out? So this thing here does not want to come out, even though I've unscrewed it and it's loose. It will not come out. But there's space either side of it, so I think I can maybe shove a couple of strips of lead down either side of it, and that'll add a bit of weight. I think we'll wrap the lead in insulating tape. And will this fit down the side? Goes down that side anyway. Excellent. Right, okay. That's a fair chunk of lead we've got into the front there. I'm aware I have a bit of a lighting issue at the moment. Where I work, right in front of me here, there's a window, so I'll let daylight in. But sometimes it messes around with the exposure, the auto exposure setting on the camera. Right, I think that is a bit better balanced. Let's see how it runs. Yeah, I think that's better. We'll go and try it in the layout. Okay, out she comes again. Well, that was fun and games. Apologies, this has been a bit of a long video. Probably could have made this a two-parter, to be honest. But this is running fine now. It certainly runs an awful lot better with the added weight up the front. You know, without it, it was just rocking back and forward as it was going along, which, I mean, it wasn't bad, but it just, no, I wasn't happy with it. So added the weight and that sorted it out. Yeah, an awful lot of fiddly faffery with this. I mean, you know, the pickups are a dodgy design. That speedometer is just silly. And, you know, it took a while to repair the tender, a bit of work involved in that. But, you know, worthwhile because it's an otherwise very nice locomotive. Just be very, very careful with soldering irons and model trains. Just a very big thank you to all of you who've made a Ko-fi donation to me. Very, very generous, and I really, really do appreciate it. You know, especially in these sort of financially turbulent times, it's very generous, and rest assured that that money goes towards tools, materials. So, you know, you're helping me and the channel immensely by doing that. So thank you very, very much. Right, okay, I'm going to get this Merchant Navy and this Class 4 packed up and sent back to Paul. And we'll see you later, folks. We'll see what's next.